All right.
Do you want to check this mic?
No, you're good. You're
good.
good.
We're good. We're good.
All right. So, just a little bit of a warning for all my fellow Midwesterners listening. You are about to experience and hear some very East Coast accents and terminology. I'm sure it's going to throw you off. You'll notice these guys might add some unnecessary ERs where they don't belong. So pizza might become pizza. Idea becomes idea. And maybe something like a dilemma that they were in becomes a dilemma. If one of them says they're waiting online, don't worry, they're not talking about the internet. They're just saying how they're standing in line. And when they say have a catch, I know that just sounds foreign to everyone. That means play catch. The socks that they're referring to, that would be the Sox from Boston, not our beloved Southside team. You might even hear a borough or two thrown in. It's kind of like a neighborhood, I guess you could say. And Worcester might be pronounced Worcester. But don't worry, I speak fluent East Coast, and I'll be your translator as we go. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
We got the coffee ready.
Yeah, we're ready to go. So I'm welcoming Gerard Selvaggio and Matt Foley. Not down by the river Acclaim, just my buddy Acclaim. We're recording from our 11th annual vacation club. Vacation club, yes, that we have a vacation club. My wife, who has many clubs, came up with this 11 years ago. And we all kind of maybe rolled our eyes a little bit, or maybe we thought we would do it for a couple years, but it's something that has stuck. It was initially with only maybe a couple kids. Oh, no, we did it without kids.
Yeah, I think it was Ryan's wedding, no kids, I believe, right?
Yeah, and then maybe even the year after that.
I think the year after that, you two had your first sons, and I was, my wife was pregnant with child.
Yes. So anyways, it started out with 0 kids, yes. And now Correct. We're at 9.
9 kids.
Now we're at 9 kids. So it's become a pretty cool thing. And
we're all very good Catholics.
We're all very good Catholics from Holy Cross.
Yes, doing our Catholic responsibility of no child protection.
Yes. Oh, God. So we are... I was wondering where you were going. So we are here. We are 3 completely different people from 3 completely different backgrounds, different jobs, but we were bonded together basically by the school that we went to. Today, though, we are going to be talking about our friendship first, maybe a little bit of fatherhood, some mental health, maybe a little bit of grief, and how it is to raise kids in this society that we live in. Are you guys ready to go?
Ready, Jim.
Ready, Jim.
So, Matt Foley, he is from Worcester, Massachusetts. He is an accountant, correct?
Correct, yes.
He is an accountant. And then we got Gerard Selvaggio. He's a plastics trader. Now, none of you probably know what in the world that is. We still don't. We know he makes a ton of money doing it. So, Gerard, can you explain what exactly that is?
Yeah. So
in like dumb people terms.
Yes.
Okay. Not that you listening are dumb people, but
explain it as you would to a 4th grader.
Yes.
Right. So my career is one by which my company, Blue Clover, we purchase and sell little plastic beads.
Will that get you like a bonus?
It could. It could. I'm hoping.
Depending on how this goes, yeah.
I'm hoping that the owner hears this and wants to.
If you might share it with them. You haven't shared anything with anybody else. I know my boy Matt Foley has been spreading this around the world. I can't even get Gerard to listen to it. He's too busy trading plastics. But go ahead.
Right. And financial incentive is a lot in life. And until there was a financial incentive for me to share this, right now there is. But no, my career is one by which my company, we purchase and sell little plastic pellets. The specific type is called polypropylene. That's going down the boring train. The exciting train is they're little pellets that get melted down and molded into automobile parts, cleaning supplies, lawn furniture, just different things that would get molded from plastic pellets. So a lot of our customers are in the Midwest. I come to the Chicago area a lot. I really don't say hi to Jim too much. I have to see him once a year at Vacation Club, so I don't want to see him too much more than that. But yeah, our customers are in the Midwest, and our producers are in the great states of Texas, Louisiana, and some other places.
Oh, there you go. So a big shout out to Texas.
Big shout out to
Louisiana.
Texas. Big shout out to Texas.
Maybe you could spread this there a little bit.
You know what?
Maybe.
I have some friends in the Houston area. I will try.
All right. So we got what these guys do, but I want to get to like how they became the people that they are. If we could just kind of go a little bit through your background. We come from three different backgrounds. Now, I will say first, some of you may not specifically know my background. I came from a pretty good background. Like my parents, everything went great. We lived in a good neighborhood. I really didn't have a whole lot going wrong in terms of my environment around me. But obviously, you guys have all heard, I had some mental health struggles that kind of maybe caught me up to you guys in that respect. Not that you guys had like just not horrible stuff going on, but it was different, right? Like you guys grew up in different environments. Can you kind of explain what I mean by that?
Yeah, sure, Jim. Did you want to go through the environmental impact of the plastics training as well? Or,
no,
stay away from
you,
that? All
you're
right, good. So I'm born and raised in Worcester. That's where we all went to college. I had the good fortune of meeting you guys there. And my parents divorced when I was 8 or 9 years old. And it was a very much Irish Catholic. I know we have that similarly, the three of us, right, to some extent.
Gerard, you got Irish in you?
I got a little bit.
Gerard
Yeah.
Selvaggio. Okay, a
There
little
is
bit.
some Irish there. And it was a very Irish Catholic approach to it in that they were separated but not legally divorced. It wasn't a normal divorced relationship. So there wasn't a dad's house, mom's house. It was one's house. My dad would kind of rotate in. So there's a difference there. They did that for a long, long time. And it's funny kind of hearing some stuff in your spouse's background that's pretty similar. And so I met my stepmom only when so that happened when I was 9, when I was 19. Mm-hmm. So there's a 10 years gap. And at the same time, I became aware of my stepbrother, which is pretty cool, right? So there's this kind of aspect of my life I was little in the dark about.
We were there when your stepbrother came, right? Correct?
Awkwardly enough, we'll see how my, relationship with my parents. We all met my stepbrother at the same time, I think,
Yeah.
So that is kind of how that went down. But it was good. I mean, Catholic schools all the way through, boys' school, which is always all boys' school, so not the public of LT. I know you like to get the local Chicago flavor.
Yeah.
So I have to do that for you. And so, but it was a good childhood, couple siblings, and doing all that.
So I have the luxury of saying one of the cooler things followed up by one of the not cooler things. So I get to say that I'm from the Bronx, New York, which is a borough or neighborhood, as Jim alluded to in the intro.
What are you gonna say? You're gonna say how it's
the not cool.
The country club version. Okay.
Don't
It's
steal
not
the
the
punch.
Bronx tale.
We're setting up the punchline here, Jim.
Oh, my fault.
We're setting up the punchline. So the cool thing to say is that I'm from the Bronx, and people will automatically associate Yankee Stadium, maybe some tough neighborhoods. And then I have to follow that up with I'm from the country club section of the Bronx. So legitimately one of the safest neighborhoods in all of the Bronx. But still, hey, still the Bronx. You can
still claim it.
There were rumors that the Bloods or the Crips would come to our area, and we had to be on guard when I was 15 years old, hanging out on the corner. Needless to say, they never showed up. They never got to that part of the Bronx. But from a growing up perspective, definitely surrounded by some tough kids, and probably similar to all of us. I don't think it really mattered where you were from. There were some kids that were tough, and there were others that were a little bit, let's say, maybe more of a homebody or a school body. And I found myself kind of trying to be that tough guy and kind of pretending like I could be. And then by the time I got to junior year of high school, I realized I was like, I can't keep up with these kids, and basically took a path to be a little bit more on the straight and narrow, and ended up at Holy Cross, which was great. From a family perspective, there's a great line. And so Matt's parents are divorced and separated. My parents stayed together. And there's a great line from Seinfeld when George looks at Gerard and he says, well, I'm the product of my parents staying together, so you never know. And with that, I mean, they had a marriage where they stayed together. There was a lot of love, but there was a lot of fighting as well. And I feel like a lot of my life has been in, kind of maybe more of an anxious fight or flight type mode. And hard to attribute how much of that is genetic and how much of that is the environment. But yeah, growing up, it was definitely a little bit of a tense household. Wasn't always kind of too easy. But my brothers and I have 2 brothers, and we're all, I'd say, closer as a result of that. So, sometimes a little bit of that adversity can be a good thing when you're growing up.
Absolutely. And then we all ended up at Holy Cross. We ended up there in different ways. You two you two got in on your own merit. Like, these guys are smart, very smart. I don't want to say conned my way in, but I got into Northwestern through basketball. Like, I never would have gotten in there. And I kind of got into Holy Cross on the allure that I might play basketball. So that's how I got in. When I got there, I was able to handle myself, but I don't think I would have ever got in if it wasn't for basketball. You guys got in on your own merit. I know when we were there, Foley's a workaholic. He worked like 15 different jobs. He did stuff with the athletic department. He did coke. He didn't do. This is a joke that we used to say back in the day. But Foley had a job for Coca-Cola, and he always used to say, "I got to go do coke." And he never did coke. I don't think so. He never actually did the drug coke, but he would always refer to his job as doing coke, which we all thought was pretty funny. But we all had I had an amazing experience there at Holy Cross. I got to meet you guys. I got to meet some other buddies there. Me and my father, like, we always talk about Holy Cross. Like, we are wearing Holy Cross gear around wherever we go. Foley's got our intramural volleyball championship shirt on there, 2006. I absolutely loved the place. I felt like, if I didn't go there, I definitely wouldn't be doing this right now. I know that. I wouldn't be talking in front of people. I wouldn't be writing stuff. I wouldn't be, I would be a different person. So I'm glad I went there. What can you guys say about your experience there?
So so from Worcester.
Yeah.
And openly, so it was on the list, but not a desired choice, right? Like, I wanted, in my heart, I needed to go to Georgetown. I'd never been there. I wanted to go to Georgetown. Who knows? And I didn't get in, right? And I didn't get, keep going, It was, bogus city. And so end up at Holy Cross. It goes really well. It's funny, kind of, with doing all the things. We got great relationships together. The experience was great. Going to school where I lived was cool. Like, I got to work. You guys will joke about the fish and chips, right? So I'm working at the family fish and chip shop on Friday nights. You would say it was an adverse working circumstance, some may, attest to that, right? As I'm changing oils. But that opportunity to kind of be with my family, my grandparents, see them, essentially weekly, right? Like, I'm in this environment with family. That was good. I never did my own laundry till I was 22, so how tough was life, Matt, right?
Yes,
you know what I
yes.
mean? Like, you hand that off to mom. And also to do stuff, like, one of the funnier moments I'm just thinking about, knowing your passion for sports, is Jim and I decided, and Jim's like, sure, I guess, to coach an AAU basketball team.
God, I know where you're going with this.
And so it was your senior year, my
Yes.
junior year. The White Sox, who, even with the Pope on their side, still suck. They're going through their run in the
Yes.
championship. And I'm running 1,000,000 miles an hour. I got 3 things going on, 4 things going on. I can't make a practice.
It was the first game. It was the first game against the Red Sox in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And so I got to go hat in hand to my buddy Jim, my assistant coach at the time, light assistant, I think, could say, Jim, I know this White Sox game means a lot to you, but could you please coach this practice?
I did it. Begrudgingly.
It was probably the shortest practice you've ever led. 30 minutes in, he's back by the second inning.
Yeah.
But that was pretty funny, right? So we had those instances, which only happened because it went to the school, and we had a lot of fun doing that.
Big J, what about you?
I guess similar to Matt, my dream school was Boston College. Didn't really know too much. It was a bigger name than Holy Cross nationally, and didn't get in there. Decided to go to Holy Cross thanks to a mutual friend of ours named Dennis Ryan, who was there already, a couple of years older than us. And so went there, fell in love with it. Definitely thought when I got there to try to, as I said before, there were some tough guys in my neighborhood, and I wasn't one of them. But I said to myself, oh, now my world got a little bigger, and I'm going to be a tough guy from the Bronx when I get to Holy Cross.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I tried to have a look, I would say, maybe a Bronx look. And I tried to bring this, maybe this street cred that I really didn't have being from Country Club. But these guys, along with many of our other friends, were very quick to put me in my place. They're like, what are you doing? Why are you talking like that? Why are you saying those words? Why are you acting like that? And it was great. And the academic experience was challenging, not impossible. You know, it took me a couple of years to realize those professor hours were a good thing to go to, and but the friends that we made, even people that aren't in our direct close circle, we're still kind of friendly with to this day. It's a great small school, and I think the Jesuit way of men and women for others really, really stuck with all of us as we kind of stayed close and try to help out any way we can.
You stole my thunder with that line. I was going to mention that
men and
later.
women
But
for us.
I do. It's good. I'm glad you threw it in here because I do think that is true. I do think we have all found our own different way of incorporating that philosophy into what we do. Like, obviously, you do the plastics trading thing, which is nothing probably about men and women.
No, profits. That is purely profits. Purely profits.
But you do.
But I also run a a K through 2 basketball clinic at the local church.
Yeah,
which
right.
raises tons of money for the church.
Yes.
None for me.
Correct.
Yes, because I have enough.
Yeah. So you always gotta have a rich guy when you go on vacation with, because Gerard, we don't tell him, but every now and then he splurges a little extra money and he throws it my way, the poor little teacher's way. So I appreciate that.
That's what we do.
So we were at Holy Cross. We played a lot of basketball together, and I think that kind of bonded us three in particular. Like, we obviously all hung out, but then we played a lot of basketball up in the field house, which at the time was just like a complete is what I'll say. And now they've rebuilt it. It's amazing. But at the time, we were up there all the time just playing 2-on-2. And shout out Steve Hansen. He was always playing with us. There were some other guys playing with us. And one of my favorite memories. So me and Gerard, Matt over here was better than Gerard. He's better, more, no offense, more skilled, more everything. But me and Gerard would be on the same team. And we would just like work the pick and roll, pick and pop. And like I would find Gerard, whenever Gerard was on my team, or most of the time, he would just be like absolutely on fire. And it would frustrate Matt to all end. And then Gerard would do this thing where he would stick his tongue out and smile at you, which would frustrate, it would even frustrate me as his teammate. But he would do that. And I remember the one time Gerard was on fire making shot after shot with Matt guarding him. And, well, I won't say Matt was guarding him. We would get Gerard open off like pick and pops and things like that, and he would hit shots. And then and then there was a time in that same instance where Matt was driving to the basket, and I believe Gerard just picked his pocket clean and did the tongue stick out thing with the smile, right?
Cookies, as the kids say.
Yeah, cookies, as the kids say. And Foley got legitimately mad and just left. He just walked right out. Do you remember this?
Yeah, game over. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for bringing that up. Is this a positivity podcast or negative? Where are we going here? Where are we going?
No, but that was just like one of my favorite memories. And then like we joke around about, like, that's what I thought. I read a study the other day about how like good it is to like kind of joke around with your buddies, like kind of make fun of them and like do all that type of stuff, as long as it's not like over the top. But like just joking around and needling people, teasing people is actually pretty good for relationships. And I felt like we had a lot of that. What were you gonna say?
Well, and I think it's funny as we think some of us may have had thicker skin or thinner skin than others, but as we've come together, like our relationships have grown, I think we can bust each other's balls without that like sensitivity to it. Anyway, like we know that it comes from a positive spirit, in a spirit of collegiality, not like the tongue stick out pissing me off where I feel like I got to leave the gym because I can't control my emotions and all that.
I felt you. I felt
I appreciate
even that. As his teammate.
Yeah,
I was
as you
like,
laughed at me
God,
leaving the
I
gym.
want to go punch him.
Well, I just want to say, as somebody who only played 1 year of high school basketball, I stink at basketball. Matt is far better than me at basketball. But you want to know how you get really good at basketball? You play 2-on-2 and you have your teammate be a 6'7" shooting guard who played Big Ten basketball, and you get open way more than you think. And the pressure to score is like this low, and you could just become very good at basketball. That's the trick. That's the trick. Pick the right teammates in life.
And very few people have that opportunity.
Yes,
And it's
yes.
Holy Cross that they got a guy who is not playing on the team.
No,
but, yeah.
no.
Go ahead.
Now, Jim, do you want to continue basketball stories and just talk about how you motivated one of my childhood friends' brothers? Why don't you tell that story too for the group, Jim?
No, you can tell. You can tell it.
Know, so
you want to tell it?
Yeah. I won't get the exact quote.
No, I'm
so
a
you
nice
can
person.
interject.
I'm a nice person.
So you say.
Okay,
yes,
yeah, okay,
yes.
but
So,
go ahead.
Close friend of mine's younger brother went to Holy Cross as well, and we were looking for people. Jim, throughout college, would play intramurals with all these other,
Before you go, Brendan Greeley, you're going to have to get the bleep button ready, but go.
No, but for the you had some friends from Western Springs, some other people that you wanted to play. You couldn't play with us intramurals, the first couple years. But your senior year, our junior year, we got a team together. So it was us three, a couple other guys, and a very close friend of mine, one of my close friends growing up. His younger brother was at Holy Cross as well, and he was nice enough to round out our team. What a nice kid.
He was very nice kid.
And so Pete's there. We're in the finals, playing a lot of football kids at the time.
The whole football team.
The whole football team.
They were like our one challenge.
Yeah, and some may say you were carrying us that day. I wasn't in quite the cardio state, that I've hit at times. You're on fire.
Yes.
And my poor buddy Pete, and Pete's mom was gracious enough
His mom was at the college. Yes,
was
go ahead.
at the game.
The only
Yeah,
person at the
yeah.
game.
Ann was nice enough to come into the gym and watch the game and enjoy and watch her son just do what he loves. And I think one time the ball swung and maybe Pete made a choice. Just remind me of what happened in the exchange here.
Well, I think Pete, it wasn't just one time. Pete looked me off a couple of times. I think he wanted to impress his mom. Pete, if you're listening, I'm sorry. But Pete took some ill-advised shot. And Foley said this, and I was like absolutely on fire. Like, it was like unconscious, like on fire. So Pete took one shot. I think the game was starting to get a little tight. He took a bad shot. And I said something. What did I say? I don't remember it exactly, but it was not good.
You got it. Go.
It was like,
pass
Pete,
me,
Pete,
yeah.
I haven't missed a shot all day. Pass me the ball. I think his mom even heard it, which I felt horrible about afterwards. And again, maybe that helped me reevaluate some things later on.
I've never asked Ann, but maybe next time I see her, I'll bring it up. Yeah, I'm still friends with that jerk who yelled at your son. I mean, it was just intramurals. I mean, come on.
I probably have to bring Pete on the podcast to discuss the damage that did. But yeah. So now you're making me look like a jerk in front of my.
Yeah. Competitive spirit.
No, I will say, like when when I got on the court, like I never was like a big trash talker, but like I remember we were playing Proviso East and like one of the kids said something to me. And from that point on, it was like I was the biggest you-know-what on the court, and I was like talking to him, hitting shots as I was releasing. I was saying stuff to him, things like that. Like I kind of would become like a different person. And sometimes it didn't happen all the time, but I think you guys would see it every now and then, correct?
Well, there was another moment. It was a feather, and then it became a bad moment. So you weren't there. So we were playing 21, as they say, or hustle. And I made a move, and I got our buddy to fall. I got him. Everyone, I got him. And he got not happy with me. And so say the score is 8-3-3. And he ripped off 18 straight and then walked out of the gym. I don't think he said a word. And so there you go in your competitive spirit.
Speaking of that, we're going to talk about Mikey Dyer. We will talk about him in a little bit, but I still remember, I know he loved telling the story. So this kid, Mikey Dyer, he was like my mini me kind of. I'm 6'7", he was like 5'7", maybe. And we became really good friends. He looked like a leprechaun, and we would play tennis every single day. And like, I was so much better than I would just crush him. But he like started to get pretty good, and he would like start to get closer and closer. And then this one time he was like really feeling it, and I was having a bad day, and he beat me. And I launched the tennis ball. What's that street? The busy street. I launched it there, and then I think I made him walk home. Like I didn't drive him home from the tennis courts, but like I think he thought it was worth it because it was like he was so happy, and it was like one of his favorite moments, and it actually made for a good story, but it also makes me look like the worst person in the world, which sometimes I was when it came to athletics, I guess you would say.
Yeah, but I got to show you a little love. I mean, making him walk, 1 mile uphill post game isn't the best look.
Yeah.
But a lot of those times you were right in terms of the ball needing to get to where it needs to get to in a meaningful game. And I think, a couple of F-bombs in between and, one slightly, embarrassed mother. But aside from that, there was a competitiveness to you that was needed in some things for some folks, and myself included. Like there was an element of like wanting to be more competitive when you were there in a healthy way too.
Yeah.
So obviously that spilled over occasionally into the, a little bit too competitive.
Yeah.
But in general, I think that it was a very, I would list it in both the pro and con column to be mindful of a positive that came with that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
No, just
I got Foley over here. Just
ripping them.
Yeah. So I guess I want to start getting into more like the mental health stuff. I think we can get into the mental health. So I'm a year older than these guys. When I transferred in to Holy Cross from Northwestern, they put me in the freshman dorm. And in fact, you talked about my buddy Matt Bruckner from Western Springs. He was already there, and the plan was I was just going to go room with him. And that would have been terrible because he was a football player, and I just would have been stuck in that world. So the best thing that could have ever happened was Holy Cross denied that. They said I couldn't. So I moved in with the freshman dorm. And anyways, I ended up graduating, and you guys had 1 year left. And I know, Matt, you were talking before we got on about like an incident that happened that you really struggled with. So would you like to?
Yeah. So I think for me, one of the bigger mental health challenges or struggles I've had is going through that final year of college, the process of change, what's next, living a life where you knew you had the next year, and mentally grappling with that. And then one of the guys that lived in your house as a senior year, I knew him very lightly, but it for some reason just stuck me along with everything else, had committed suicide, right? And he did it over winter break. And at that point, when I came back, probably not in the right physical of health spaces, kind of hearing you, Jim, acknowledge, the basics, water, actually seeing, the sun, getting outside and moving.
Well, because we didn't know you didn't know anything.
I had
right?
no idea.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
At that, you're impenetrable at that point. And mentally it was whatever. And like I said, it was always, you've acknowledged it was work. Like I need to get really good grades because that's what I do. Sports are sports. I wasn't all that passionate about it, to the frustration of some, but whatever, right? And so I spiraled, and I went through a pretty deep depression. Grades slipped, which had never happened. I was, on track for a very, very good GPA, and I just got a good GPA because I took a knee on some courses. I couldn't do it, and the professors were good about that. And so I know you've talked, Jim, about Katie standing by you through this process and going through, and we've got a couple commonalities here. So, one was I had just started my relationship with my wife, and, you're going through that period where.
Oh, I'm sorry, was that when you started? Because I knew Ashley beforehand. Were you guys just like
So
friends?
we were, talking, if you will, and then we went steady. I pinned her.
That's not even like a term that we would use. That's
I
like
know,
even
I
older
know.
than us, but I like it.
Yeah, I pinned her. Our official fake date is June. It'd be June 1st of 20 when we graduate, 23. So 2007, 2006 is when. So, so we're 6 months into our relationship, and I'm a mess. I'm an admitted mental mess. I saw the psychiatrist. I saw the psychologist. I'm going through it. And I remember even talking to you guys, and I had, where we're similar, I had intrusive thoughts that I could not shake. Like it just dominated my life. And it was really bad. I was living on campus with a very close friend from childhood, not the greatest, but I'm living there with my buddy Matt. I moved home. Again, I'm lucky that I'm going to school in that city. Like I wouldn't have been able to finish. And it was bad. It was a bad 6 months. It was a bad 9 months. I had already gotten a job before, thank God. That would have been bad. So I had a job lined up. I had a start date, but kind of just going through that process of getting my mental health back on track and dealing with the process of change. Change orientation's always been hard. For me, it's hard for my kids. It's kind of funny. I think we'll talk about fatherhood and how things replicate, and you can see it. But
now, how did your depression show? Like, because I'm thinking of grades, like you started doing poorly in school. Was it something? Because here's the part that I think I always say that people kind of don't understand is like depression for me. Yeah, it's like the sadness, that's bad, all that stinks. But it was more like I couldn't focus and control my thinking. Like I couldn't rationally think or think logically. Was that happening with you? Is that why the grades were going?
So it was like I had, I took a class to learn Mandarin senior year because I knew I could do the memorization because I'm a maniac, right? And my wife always makes fun of me. I had the flashcards to the ceiling and I just rip them all day. Didn't bother me. Like that's nothing. But I had business law with the Canadian tuxedo guy.
Yeah, that guy was awesome. I love
great.
that too.
Great guy. And
Sandstrom. That's amazing. I pulled that name out.
Yeah, and it's a lot of what I do all day, right? Like I do a lot. I'm a CPA. I'm an accountant. I do a lot of mergers and acquisitions. There's a lot of legal documents that I review and all that. And I could not get. I just couldn't do it. Like I got an A+, in the first semester. The second semester, I emailed the guy before a test. I'm like, I'm just not ready. I can't do it. Yeah. Like I just can't. I just couldn't get there. I was just clouded. Everything was going to a negative space. He had a rule that if you took all the tests, you didn't have to take a final.
Yeah.
I'm the only guy taking the final. I couldn't study for it. I got probably the only C in my life, I think, or B, whatever it was, and it took me from the highest. Summa cum doom, like, and it doesn't matter. Like, what does that matter, right? But it's a sense of personal pride and accomplishment. And it's funny as we talk through even like your athletic stuff or me not getting that, like giving yourself the grace to be like, okay, you went through a challenge. You didn't maybe meet your goal, but you adjusted through it. You lived through it. You grew through it. And being able to accept yourself and the result, right? And knowing that there's still a lot of positives. So, but it was a lot. And it was really funny, not ha-ha, no funny ha-ha, but, we would talk about it. And my friends, and it's like...
You didn't talk, like, at the time, you had no idea, like... I didn't really have any idea, like, what I had gone through. So, like, we didn't really talk about any of this until years later.
Right. But I would talk to the guys, and they would meet with me, and it was kind of like a funny, like... What are you talking about? Like, I could see people hear me but not understand because people hadn't been through it or hadn't acknowledged it. And then, like, the one guy would come up and be like, I'm having really bad intrusive thoughts, too.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to fight everybody all the time. And like, looking back on, I'm like, I know this bro was going through it. This bro was, you know what I mean? Like, I can tell. But as you've said, like, there wasn't an openness and dialogue.
Right.
And so we were all fighting battles in silence, right? Like
Well, and you think no one else is dealing with those things,
Right.
and then like when I spoke at my mom's funeral, like me and Katie talked about like we didn't know anybody who had like mental health issues. After that, we knew a lot of people who had mental health issues. It's just they never said anything about it.
Right.
That was what I think you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
So you kind of had I guess we're gonna stick on because you didn't really have. Were you having stuff going on at that time or no?
No, my first like kind of deeper dive into anxious thinking and intrusive thoughts was right when Rosie, my wife, was pregnant. So college was filled for me with fun times.
A lot of fun times.
A lot of fun times. We did a good. Hey, we all worked very hard. We graduated at the time. We had good GPAs. I was never on track for any cum laude, but I was close. But I really enjoyed college. Enjoyed my 20s afterwards. And then for me, my mental health kind of, I'd say, peaked in my late 20s. Rosie was pregnant with our first kid, our daughter, and I remember being at like and so the world became a little bit more careful, so to speak. And I didn't want to, mess up or do anything wrong. And the levity of our times together in our 20s became more like, okay, life's now serious. I'm about to have a kid. And I was at a Thanksgiving, I remember, at my cousin's house, and just like some thoughts came in that were either, violent or maybe some sexual thoughts in nature. And they didn't feel right. And all of a sudden that like there's a lot of psychologists will describe it as like a whoosh feeling in your stomach, and it didn't feel right. But I've always had thoughts. We all have thoughts. There's no such thing as a bad thought, but this one stuck, and it stuck with me for a while. So that for the weeks afterwards and the months afterwards, I kind of kept to myself, why would I think that? Right? That question of why is. Anybody who has a form of maybe OCD or anxiety and to a degree depression, the question why is the least helpful thing you could ask yourself.
Right.
So, but I was, why would I have those thoughts? And so I was going through work and every day, white knuckling it, nervous to do basic things that I would have normally done. And I was fortunate enough to like look up psychologists in the area. And I found a guy who was in the middle of Greenwich, Connecticut, which is one of the most expensive areas in the country. I'll give you one. I'll tell you one thing. He does not take insurance. So make sure you're trading plastics if you go to see him. But
he's got good books, though.
Great books. At the time, he didn't have
for the common folk.
For the common folk, yes. He was writing these books at this time because this was now probably 12 or 11 years ago. So his name is Dr. Martin Seif. And he specializes in intrusive thoughts to a degree. He's a psychologist, and I think he's very renowned in that world. And I went to see him, and he basically just started working with me about why my brain has a sensitivity to these types of thoughts, why I'm in a kind of a loop-in battle with them, and worked on these exercises to free them. So like some of those exercises included almost going to the thought. So I'll get a little specific here. For me specifically, I'll put the disclaimer out there. I've never done this before. This is not medical advice. I do not say this, but for me specifically, some of my advice was to set a timer and go sit down and purposely think of some messed up thoughts. I'll put that in quotation marks because there's no such thing as a bad thought. It was a way to free up the thought. It was a way because eventually that gets kind of boring if you're sitting there for 10 minutes.
Yeah. So
that was something I worked on. Another thing I worked on was writing things down that were, well, again, I'll put this in quotes, messed up in nature. It was a way to free the thought, free the mind from its significance that I inappropriately gave it. And so those things were some exercises, and he has that in his book. So since then, him and another author, Dr. Sally Winston, came up with these books. I'll just shout out the name of it. The first one is called Overcoming Unwanted Intrusive Thoughts. His website is Dr. Martin Seif, SEIF.com. And it's a great place to start. He's got, I think that him and his co-author have 3 or 4 books. It's a great place to start. And here's the thing about an intrusive thought. What matters is, does the content bother you? 1, If it does, okay. And are you trying to get rid of it but can't because you're fighting against it?
Yeah.
And the more you fight against it, the more it shows up. The more you fight against it, the more it shows up. The more you fight against it. So those would be criteria where if you're having these thoughts and you don't want to have certain thoughts, but you feel like you can't stop having those thoughts, it is a place to start with some of these books or other places. That's what I'll leave it at that.
Well, so I had a comedian from my area who now lives in New York, so you'll probably listen to that one.
I will listen to that one. Shout out.
Bridget McGuire, and she was talking about OCD is what she deals with, and one of the things that she was like, I can't remember if she said this when I was talking to her, if I read it in something that she wrote, but like she once thought she like killed a guy and she was like searching around the house to find out like his body, and she had in her mind, because it was a thought that came up, and she said like a psychologist or therapist explained to her like, yeah, most people have strange thoughts, but the people that are dealing with something, like they ruminate on it over and over, and like they become obsessive about it. Like, was there thoughts of you having like OCD or?
Yeah, and I feel like we all grew up, now we're all kind of 40 or older, but in that late 30s plus, OCD was always thought of as a physical manifestation. If somebody had OCD, they wouldn't stop checking the stove or touching a doorknob. And
that's what I said to her. I was like, I thought, you're going to be like Jack Nicholson in what's that movie? As Good as It Gets.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I've learned in talking to and reading these books is obsessive thinking is another form of obsessing over something of did I do this? Could I do this? So it's the same sort of did I shut the stove off when you're laying in bed, or did I do something, or could I do something? And in fact, a lot of the common themes are people are driving and they think they might have ran over somebody.
Yeah.
And so similar to that, and like you like check your rearview mirror, you don't see anything, you turn you turn on the next street, but you're not. There's a part of you that's not entirely convinced that you didn't run over somebody.
Right. Yeah.
It's that, so there's that sensitivity to the thought and the rumination that definitely plagues certain people.
Yeah.
And for me, it was helpful to learn that and then to kind of work on, once you know that, it's pretty powerful, and then to kind of work on allowing yourself to think those things and still kind of move forward with them. Yeah. So like, maybe you don't need to check every room in the house in her case, or in my case, maybe I don't need to go circle the block 10 times. Right. It's just like you have to allow that thought or feeling to sit there and still kind of carry on with your day and not feed it, so to speak.
Well, yeah. And she was saying she would like take pictures of everything, every appliance in the house to make sure she had it off, which she was like, it's completely insane. She was like, it does make for good comedy. Because even as she was like saying some of the stuff, I'd be like start laughing. I'd be like, I'm sorry. She's like, no. I mean, and then the one thing that she was saying that I was like, where have I heard this before? Like she said this and I was like, I've heard this before. And she said that like her therapist or whoever it was carried a thing in his pocket that said, I hope my family like dies in a car accident, and he would carry it around. And I'm like, I've heard this before. So then I asked you just the other, when we were here, and you said that your guy who you talked to had the same thing. It must be something that they all
and
about.
I feel like some of the exercises might be, patient specific, but one of the things, as I said before, was to write out some of those worst thoughts. And as you're writing them and you're in a fairly anxious state, your body's kind of in fight or flight because you're in an anxious period of your life, it's difficult to do. It's not easy to write down, you will do something bad or something bad can happen to your family. But as you do that, and then the exercise for me specific was to read that so many times that it became boring. Yeah. And like, okay, by the time you read that for the 50th time or the 70th time, you're like, okay, I got to go read this thing. And you go read this thing. And the whole time you're just thinking about like what you're going to have for dinner that night. Yeah. And you've really started to separate what is, again, that it's truly an insignificant thought that your body incorrectly placed a ton of meaning on. Yeah. And so, and I'd say this, a lot of people that struggle with intrusive thoughts that may make them feel like they've done something wrong or they could do something wrong, I do think there's a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of those people are very good people. In fact, it happens to a lot of religious people as well.
Well, that's what she was saying. There's a religious OCD.
Yeah, right. Where they feel like
yeah.
they're in church and they feel like they're going to shout out a profanity.
Yeah.
Or they feel like they're upsetting God in some ways. And we all grew up with church in our life, and Catholic guilt is a real thing. And but there's this component of you want to be kind of good in so many ways that the thought, having a bad thought, feels like there's a guilt component to it. So I would say that for a lot of people, like as Matt said, once you can find that you can give yourself grace, you can educate yourself on what is incredibly normal to have intrusive thoughts, and just educate yourself on that, and then talk to some people if you need to. But these books out there are great. Again, this is just specific for what I dealt with in my anxiety and forms of OCD.
All right. Well, so I guess with going back a little bit, because I think this was a little later on, I want to go back to Matt. So Matt ended up having testicular cancer, and it was like not that long after we graduated, if I remember. Like when, like 5 years?
No, yeah. So I was 27, felt a lump, and ignored it naturally, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we do. We're men.
Yeah.
We're fine. We're impenetrable. So what we got brain problems, but our body's fine.
Yeah.
Right. And so I did that for a couple months, and then finally went, and it was, I think it was 2 days before my birthday. So it was February 1st, maybe, or 2nd. Ashley's got it in her phone. When I was 27, and it's like you're a celebrity at the hospital when you go through this process. They scan your stuff. That's an experience too. Hopefully you guys get that someday.
Hopefully not.
No, hopefully not. And the alarm bells go off, and they just like go to urology. You're the lucky winner. So you go down there, and it's a crazy experience, right? Because you got no idea. Like for me, I don't know about you guys. Like cancer, I remember going to something at Holy Cross, and we can talk about our lives and all this. But there was a orientation. One of the first conversations was about feeling lucky and gratitude. There was this guy, and I can remember we're in there, and he does a thing about cancer and who has been impacted by cancer in their life. And I'm 19, and everyone's got their hand up. Mm-hmm. And I didn't. Like, it was one of those things. I was fortuitous in life that no one really close to me had died, had cancer, had maybe they did, but they never told me, right? Like, in a bubble, right? But anyway, so it just was an experience. I wasn't fluent in cancer at that time. And so we're going through it. Ashley comes, we're crying, like, going through all the emotions of what's going to happen. Hey, we're going to take one of your two good friends from you. And so they did that 2 or 3 days later. You go through the process, and there's no good cancer, but I got the good cancer. It's one in which they found the magic mix. It's
but you did. You had to go, like, I remember you were bald, right?
It's a bomb, shock and awe, right, to your system. So it was 3 rounds of chemotherapy. So they take it out. You got a tumor. It is cancerous. You've got a 95 to 97% chance of survival.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm the 3%.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like, you're guaranteed 3%. And they were all the doctors were wonderful. The second opinion. Some of the type A comes in, right? So I didn't wait for Dana-Farber to give the second opinion. I'm like, this guy says it's just this. I'm just going to go do this, right? Like, I'm going to go. But yeah, went through the whole process. There's nothing like I don't wish. It's funny, Jim, because I'm a faithful listener. So episode 108, you had talked about.
You actually listen.
Yeah, I do, and I try to help. You had talked about gratitude and your appreciation for going through your mental stuff and getting on the other side of it. And
like I'm almost happy it happened.
You're happy, right?
Yeah.
And you feel empowered and all this. And so with cancer, like I always say, I go annually to the oncology ward, and I went through. So I'm in there. Well, I guess that that's fast forward. So you're in there. You're getting the chemo, and for me it was intravenous. I'm in there 5 days in a row. And it's 3 cycles. I've got a 97% chance I'm going to be good. What does that mean, right? And I'm going to live 5 years. That's what the stats say. So 97% you're going to last 5 years. If you end up getting the flu or something, you're smoked. But besides that, you're good. Good luck. You know what I mean? And so you go through it, and if anyone's gone through the chemo process, especially testicular, like that 5th day of the first week is the worst day of your life. Like you feel so bad. And it was one of those, my mom, and it was an amazing thing. She's like, I'm there. I am with you every day.
Yeah.
For 45 straight days, I'm there, and I'll drive you there. I'll drive you home. I think we watched The Wire. We watched The Shield.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, like, hey, Mom, this scene's a little awkward, but I'm glad you're here with me, right? You know what I mean? And she's like, you got to get out of the house. And so we would walk around the block. We were living in the south end of Boston, and we would do the block and 2 blocks. And there's nothing you can do. My hair's falling out. That's an interesting experience. You go to the barber shop, and you're wearing the hat, and you go to sit down. And I didn't have like a barber. It's not like Jimmy Balls or whoever you went to in the Bronx. Bobby Balls. And so I go in and I go to sit down, and I take my hat off, and the guy goes, "What are you doing?" And I just got patches. Like, I got nothing but patches of hair, and I'm like, just shave it. And it's funny the people's emotions to it, not being able to speak to it or show that. This guy didn't say a word to me. I was a leper, right? Like, I think he put gloves on when he shaved my head. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have that. I remember going to the bookstore. I'm like, I got to read everything about chemo and chemo brain because, I'm going through it. And I go to check out, and the guy's super nice to me. Hey, how's your life? And then I drop chemo brain, whatever the book. I don't have shout outs. Do you have a promo code?
We're gonna list it in the show notes.
And so I put it on, and the guy just goes boom, frigid. And I get it, but it's just funny as you go through that experience.
Well, that's I wanted to talk about that because kind of like how you felt like I've always felt, and I don't know if you felt like this. I always felt bad. Like, how old were we at that time?
27.
Okay, so we're like all like just getting going with like what we're doing and with our life. And I've always felt bad. Like, I felt like I didn't like one. I lived super far away. I wasn't close enough where I could have been there. But like, I felt like I didn't like check in enough. And I don't know if it was like I was just so busy or like, I think like also if you got cancer now, I think I'm a different person now. I think I would be better at like talking about it. But at that time, it was like, well, what do I say? Like, if I call him, like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to make it feel worse for him. So like, I felt like I didn't check in. I apologize for that. I feel like
it's all good.
Hey, if you get cancer, if you get some cancer now, I'm gonna be there. I don't know. Did you feel like that at all, or did you feel like you were a little more?
100%. I felt like that. In fact, it's like it's something so meaningful to what happened to Matt, and so it's such an experience, and like it does. I did feel that way. So yeah, I feel like maybe I didn't reach out as much, and I'll double down on that. Sorry, 2 of those.
Yeah.
But we were definitely thinking about you, bud. Glad you're with us.
I will say, speaking of gratitude, I am almost. Actually, I can't say it like that, but I'm grateful that it evolved in one of the greatest lines that I've ever heard Matt Foley say. So Matt Foley came in, and I was coaching in the inner city, and he went to a game with my wife at Hyde Park High School. And I will say, like, I had kind of become immune to situations like this because this was not the first time.
Well, to set the stage too, Jim, there was a shooting.
Oh, there was a shooting
Someone
of
got
a
killed
bus.
The night before, someone
Yes.
had gotten shot and killed outside of
A basketball team.
A basketball game.
Yeah,
Yes.
So that had happened the night before, and one of my players took like a cheap shot at another guy, and like it created like this melee where like people started storming the court. And I don't know how I felt like the cops got there. Like there was a SWAT team there, like within
Machine guns.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they came in, and it was like just mayhem. And Matt was there with my lovely wife, and I was there obviously coaching my team. And like the cops like basically cleared everyone into the bleachers, and like our whole team and all of our fans were like escorted out. So it was like a scary situation, and I remember maybe we went out to like eat afterwards, and Matt goes to me, he goes, "Man, Jim, ball cancer couldn't kill me, but one game with CPS basketball almost did. And like I thought it was like, first of all, that he referred to it as ball cancer, I thought was funny, but the fact that he brought it up in relationship to that, like I just thought that was a great line. So I'm grateful that we had that opportunity because I did think that was a pretty good line. Now, you also like had the issue after my wedding, I remember.
Yep.
And we don't have to get into like everything, but like I know, were you having like panic kind of attacks or anxiety attacks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was, well, it was alcohol, right? So there's I probably started drinking earlier than I should have. And
like in life.
Yeah. My relationship with alcohol was never good.
Day as well. Probably
Well, and
Yeah.
and we were out there, but we had gone out even separately
Yes.
to a trip before.
Yes.
And I remember we had a great time. Intrusive thoughts are really a problem. Taking care of yourself is not a priority. I'm impenetrable, right? I'm a dum-dum. And I remember we had that flight. Yeah. We took a flight back once from there. And
was that after we were playing poker with Eddie Curry, that one?
It could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been, yeah. And I could not hang. I threw up all over your best friend's, one of your friend's lawns.
Yeah.
So he professionally maintained, so that's fine. But we're on the flight, and I have a panic attack. It's funny the exposure we've had together with these things, and you're like, what do I do? Yeah. Like, breathe into this bag. And and I'm sweating. I'm freaking out. I'm dead. I'm having a heart attack. I'm dead. I was dead. I died.
Yeah.
Right. And got through it, went through it.
Was that the first time that had ever happened?
No, I mean, like, I was having a heart attack every day for about 6 years, right? In your brain, you go through this, and I'm in bad shape. I'm not taking care of myself, all this. But, yeah, by the time we got to your wedding, I'm misusing alcohol, all that. And, it's essentially like, what are you doing? My wife called me out. My I don't even think we were fiance, just, boyfriend, girlfriend. She's like, what are you doing? What is going on, right? And I live a life where you go through priorities a lot. And we've never really talked about this, right? But you write out your goals. I talk about this a lot when I mentor people now. It's like you write out your goals, and then you write out how you're living life and how do they map? How do they align? Are you lying to yourself? I hate to be a liar, right? My son loves to lie, but I hate to be a liar, right? And so here I didn't write it out, but you say like relationships are important, but I'm using alcohol and not being true to relationships. Not that I was cheating or anything, but whatever. So for me, I stopped drinking right after your wedding. I drank one more time after that, or maybe two. And so you've been married, 14 years?
Yeah.
And I haven't had a drink since.
Now, did you go to like AA or anything, or is it just you just did it?
No, it was done, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and I wouldn't say, I couldn't say that, but like, I wouldn't say you necessarily would have needed AA.
I didn't have a dependence on alcohol.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to use it, right? Like for me, it was, and we've talked about it, like it was, if you have one, you have 20.
Yeah.
There's no like, little bit of drinking. In my, it was to get annihilated and forget about life, right?
Yeah.
That was my approach.
Yeah, I was just going to add too, like when I started first dealing with, again, my late 20s, my wife was pregnant. I was having these intrusive thoughts happen, and I remembered how in those times, alcohol would really, when you drink, you can really relieve yourself of OCD or intrusive thoughts temporarily.
Yeah.
For them to only come roaring back the next day. So I went on like a 2 or 3 week
would
period.
it come roaring back worse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think anybody who feels any sort of maybe anxiety or mental health or depression, if you drink too much, I think for most people, typically the next day is significantly worse in terms of your mental health. And I tried the route of, I shouldn't say tried it. It felt good for a couple of weeks to numb myself with alcohol, but it was an uphill battle that was unwinnable, obviously, in the sense of any sort of anxiety or intrusive thought would come back even harder.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that most people that I've talked to and stuff, that like if you do have any of those sort of mental health struggles, I think it's a little bit more important to pay attention to your alcohol intake if you're of the age.
Right. I mean, I think I've looked up a lot about, alcoholism, and I don't know the exact numbers, but I would venture to say a lot of alcoholism stems from mental health issues. And then people start drinking.
Yes.
And there is also something where the drinking then causes the mental health too. But I do think, and especially like with the Irish like deal obviously with a lot of alcoholism, but I also think it's the culture of like, hey, I'm just going to keep everything to myself. I'm not going to talk about it, that, that they're dealing with from a mental health standpoint. And now it leads to the alcoholism.
Well, and I can always remember in college, Jim, and I know you're trying to get us through your agenda here. I always remember in college, you would go out one Saturday, and then you're like, I'm not going out again for a month. And like I think I knew it at the time, but not really. Like, it's knocking him off kilter, and he's not doing it again, and he's gonna get himself back up and do it. It was, it's one of those things I knew was going on, but again, like, we never talked about it.
No.
Right? It was never a conversation point. Like, are you good when this happens? Like,
Yeah.
we just never.
Well, yeah, that was going to be my next thing is like when, like, I'm sure stuff, like when I started doing all this stuff and like you guys knew before I started doing all this stuff, like when did you first know like about me, if you remember? Like, was it at my mom's thing? Was that the first time you ever, or you knew before, right?
Yeah, I think you. I don't know. Maybe you and I didn't talk about it that much, but there was either maybe you and Mikey Dyer, our good friend, one of our great friends from Holy Cross, who unfortunately passed away. But I feel like Mikey would sometimes call me. This was before your mother passed, Jim, and would say like, hey, have you heard from Jim? It's been like 5 or 7 days, and me, I could be in my bubble, and I could just be where I am and not check in on.
Me and Mikey communicate a lot more than me, and it would be about stupid stuff.
No, right? I would say even though Jim and I are great friends, and the three of us are great friends, you and I don't. If we're not seeing each other, we don't talk too much, and that's I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But so Mikey would call me and say, hey, I haven't heard from Jim in like 10 to 14 days, whatever, 10 days. Have you heard from him? And I'm like, no. He's like, do you think he's okay? And that's when I started to I said, what do you mean by that? And he's like, well, I think he kind of might be struggling with some stuff. Why don't you give him a call?
Yeah.
So Mikey was very big into like, and that was where like I got a little bit of a heads up into if you were in a bout of depression that kind of turned you off to the world for a while.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Well, and I think for us, it was a little different in that I had gone through it. I was pretty vocal.
Yeah.
When I got depressed, my feeling is I know I need others to get through stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And so you were aware, and I remember you had come out for something, and you were like, we were just driving around. I think we went to like a Savers or something.
Yeah.
I can remember. And you were like, Matt, I'm going through it. I'm taking some medicine. It's made me better.
Yeah.
And Katie had done a nice job of kind of communicating a lot of your battles too.
Yeah.
Protectively, but whatever.
Right.
I can always remember, I never read it. I never betrayed your trust. You had a problem. You had written a paper, and I can assume what it was, episode 103, in that you had written a paper for one of your sociology classes.
Yeah.
Where you communicated why you quit the basketball team. And I feel like I finally read that paper and that you did it, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I had you put it on my thing to print it, and I was like, does he actually want me to read it? Is he like a girl here talking to you know what I mean? Like, is he leaving me hints or whatever? And I never read it, but I knew there was more to it when you said, like, please don't read this. It's very personal.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just my back. I think that was the
communication. Right. Yeah.
And I was like, I should open it and read it. And I did actually try a couple years later, but who knows? Too many bad sites I clicked on. I had a virus or something. But so I knew there was more. We had never acknowledged it because, bros.
Yeah, like I would just, I guess when like the thing with like basketball, I just didn't like it. I just, or maybe like I'd say something about the coach and it wasn't the coach, or like, I guess when you found out, a lot of stuff probably started to make a little bit more sense, right?
Yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah.
Well, and it's just so funny, right? Like, and we were pretty open when you were going through intrusive thoughts. You're like, hey, I'm part of the club now. Yeah. I'm like, hey, welcome in, right? But like, there's not much, we approached it a lot different. Like, you went, as deep as possible. I did get to like, these thoughts are boring, and I would try to get there, but I'm probably more on the avoidant side of things as an approach, which is not great, but for me it works, right, when I get to intrusive thoughts. But yeah, it is funny where we've had the communication. Now we're way more open. I mean, we're on a podcast about that. So.
We're going to be a podcast that's going to be broadcast for sure to the Midwest, definitely to the Massachusetts, probably not to New York, but it'll, it's going to get out there. So, but I do think, I don't know if you guys do you feel better like talking like this?
I think it does feel good to talk about.
Isn't it weird?
Yes, and I feel it does feel very good. So that should be an invitation to people to try to open up if you can, if you're willing and able to. And I'm vain enough I'm on the podcast, so I will definitely spread it in the New York community. Prior to that, I had no interest in the
right.
What was it called? The Gym Way?
Yeah, the Maley.
Oh, the Maley way.
Yeah.
I got it.
Well, you said that you kind of didn't want to get like triggered, right? Like,
yeah, I think that's it. So we were alluding to the fact that Matt listens to the podcast, loves it, and shares it. I've listened to some
critiques
of the,
it. He doesn't
yes,
like how
yes.
I what do you call it, bro?
Well, Jim, I love what you're doing here.
Yeah, he
And I
doesn't
wanna
like
talk about
that I give too much love.
the Mutual Appreciation Society goes on a little long, but I love you anyway, bud, and I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So as I don't listen to it too much. And it is by design. Obviously, I want to support my good friend and anything I could do. Blue Clover's here to support you financially.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got to clear that with the board first. But there is an element of I say it's if you ever have intrusive thoughts or OCD and things, the more you try to push it away, any one of those thoughts, the more you try to push it away or ignore it, it could come back stronger. And so there's an element of allowing it to be there and carry on with your life. You just don't want to give it the power, the unnecessary power to the thought that the thought does not deserve. However, on the other side, I will say this. For me specifically, it's probably not good to always be going into those mediums that may be talking about mental health, or like if for example, if you have a sensitivity to violence perhaps, and there's Law and Order episodes, and these days Law and Order looks like Sesame Street compared to what you could watch on TV these days, right? Squid Games, you name it. And that stuff, for some people, they watch that stuff at 9:30 at night. They turn it off, they go to sleep, and it doesn't bother them. For people that have a sensitivity to certain stuff, you want to be mindful of what you consume. So for me personally, I listen to some of the podcasts, but I try to, my life has gone a little bit more towards some lighter comedy things. But I'll say the Maley way.
There's some comedy.
Yeah,
in
there's
here.
some comedy in here. There is.
The ball cancer joke. Come on.
It's great. It's great. And who knows? Maybe with me being on it now, I'll become a super fan.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I think it's I do dive into it. I just don't consume it at a very immediate rate. And for me, I just kind of go a little slower with it. And I think you got to find your pace of. You could spend a lot of your day in life talking about mental health.
Yeah.
And I think that you got to find the right amount of balance between exploring it and then putting it to the side and kind of doing other things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I wanted to get in. I think you guys knew. Do you guys know I was hospitalized, right? Or no?
I didn't know until episode 104.
Okay, so
Holy shit, you were hospitalized?
yeah, so
I didn't catch that one.
I figured Katie had told you when it was going on. But anyways, I was in the hospital for like 7 days. And it ended up being a great thing because it allowed me to kind of, I think, find like the permanent type solution. And one of them would be like actually taking care of myself. Like what would happen is I would like go into like a deep depression and I would get better. And then like I just continue to do the same stuff. And then I would go back. And then this kind of caused me to, well, one, start doing this, which has been helpful, like talking about it. But two, like, like exercise and water and, getting better sleep, like all that. I started really kind of focusing on, and it's kind of helped me. But it happened during COVID, and COVID like really messed me up. It was like the first time, like most of my stuff always, I think it had been more chemical. Like it just would happen. I don't know. Even when things were going good, it would happen. And that was the first time that we're a situation. And it was not only just COVID, which I absolutely hated. I hated that whole experience. I hated teaching during it, all that stuff. but then our buddy, and I talked to Kathleen Dyer. I actually called her up about a couple weeks ago, and I was like, listen, I'm going to talk about how I think Mikey was like, and I don't want to get, this is not political, but he was like collateral damage to the COVID situation. And I think there's a lot of mental health problems and alcoholism that were collateral damage to decisions that were made, which, yes, I understand people were dying, all this stuff, but then my buddy dies too. And it really bothered me because I asked Kathleen, I was like, obviously Mikey drank, and I was like, did it really increase during COVID, like when he was isolated? And she was like, yeah, it was insane. Like it definitely increased. So he ends up, dying during COVID in the hospital with, I think it was like cirrhosis of the liver. And, it was a similar situation. Like I thought I had texted him like an amazing just joke that I thought was hilarious, which he would normally respond immediately. I don't even remember what it was, but like he wasn't responding. I was like, wait, that was awesome. Like, why? Mikey would love that. Like, did I offend him? And he didn't respond. And I kept texting him. And then like Tom Kelly calls me. He's like, he's in the hospital, and it's not looking good. And I was like, what? What's not looking good? And it was like, yeah, he just has cirrhosis of the liver, and something happened with his esophagus, and like he's getting and all this stuff. And obviously that part of it bothered me, but what I think bothered me even more was that he was in the hospital alone, and his wife couldn't even be in there with him. Meanwhile, I'm like watching on TV, and I'm seeing like celebrities having parties and all this stuff going on where like people didn't have to follow any sort of guidelines, and he's dying alone without his wife being there. And I asked Kathleen when I talked to her, I was like, were you there ever? She's like, no, I wasn't really allowed to be there. And like, to me, that really messed me up, and it made me like almost bitter in a way, like really bitter, like really, really bitter, like swearing at Pete bitter. Like I was like angry about it because, and then when, we go to we could barely like even celebrate him when we went to the funeral. Like we were in the basement, and I don't know, it just really bothered me, And that, along with like the other COVID aspect of it, like, I ended up being hospital, and I didn't really want to admit that like part of it was because of Mikey, and it wasn't necessarily because of him dying. Obviously that's terrible. I don't think that, like, even when my mom died, like, yeah, terrible. I was devastated, but that wouldn't have gotten to me. It was like all the other stuff. Like, I don't know. I kind of rambling here, but it really bothered me. Yeah. And like, it caused me to go into like the worst place ever. I don't know like how you were affected by that.
Yeah. I mean, incredibly frustrated in that just in terms of it was painful to see such a good friend who was going through that. And I mean,
and we didn't know, really.
We didn't know. Yeah. He had definitely been working on a lot of what he needed to work on prior to the COVID starting. In fact, we went out to dinner one night, and he looked at me and he said, "You're not going to say," in standard Mikey Dyer way, looks at me and says, "Oh, you're not going to say anything." I said, "Say anything about what?" He says, "You're such a jerk." I said, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I've lost like 85 pounds." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's, you look great." Like it was some number like that. And I should have said something, but maybe I was in my head looking at the appetizers and entrees. And he says, and he's so proud of himself. I said, "Oh, what prompted the change?" And he said, "Well, I spoke to a doctor, and the doctor said I needed to make some changes." Yeah. And that's all I got from him. And in hindsight, kind of like, when you look back and anything, and you're like, okay, that made sense. The doctor probably had some advice about what he should and shouldn't be doing. And and then the COVID, it is to me a true statement that governments did not do a good job of thinking about the very, very important unintended consequences of keeping people at home, and the casualties that are still lingering to this day from that stuff, and things that they didn't seem to worry about that. And it's one thing to, deal with it for 4 to 6 weeks, but if we could have gotten back to a point where people could have been out and about far sooner than they were, I think we could have gotten at least him to a point where maybe it was, he could have got the help he needed and been around others, because it was that solitude that during those what felt like 4 or 5 months, 3 months, when that's an incredibly long time to be relatively alone in your house.
Well, and I feel like I don't know about you guys, but like I feel like I realized how much I missed like human connection. And I was not a big human connection person. Like I was like, but like I realized like, oh my God, like how much I kind of needed that. Where like Mikey was a big talker, human connection.
Yeah, he was a member at the local. It's almost like an Elks Lodge, but that wasn't it. But he would go there and he would sit there and talk to a 75-year-old person for 5 hours.
Yeah, well, I feel like Mikey was the one that got me and you hanging out. We talked about this the first day I met Mikey. He had found out. I don't even know if I told him. He had found out that because I think he saw how tall I was, and he found out I played basketball. He had printed, he had a party in his dorm, which was classic Mikey, in his dorm room, and he had like printed off reading material about like articles from my past, and he was passing it around and be like, hey, this is Jim Maley. And he was like introducing me to everyone, and like he knew it was embarrassing me, and he was like kept doing it. But yeah, like he like needed like the human interaction, I think.
100%.
And that I could see how that could get to you, obviously.
Yeah, it was painful. And then obviously, like just the things that, and we want to be sensitive to frontline workers and what they were going through.
Obviously.
But there is an element of like when a relatively young person is passing away, there's got to be a way to get family in there to see them, and it was frustrating. And even for the wake and the funeral, it was a tough time to be together. Everybody was so nervous about COVID, and in hindsight, I do think we did a good job of not worrying too much and still celebrating him. But
we didn't worry at all.
Yeah, we didn't really worry about it. There was hugs were given and drinks were shared.
Yeah.
But it just truly felt like one of those unintended casualties of how the COVID situation was handled.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not, like you said, like I know there's going to be maybe somebody listening who someone died close to them, and I understand that. But I also think there was those other casualties that like you were kind of even like considered like a jerk for even talking about something that went against like what was being done. Like you were considered like you just want people to die? And it's like, well, no, but I also don't want my friend to die.
Right.
And I also don't want like all this stuff to happen. It really.
Was that the first time you were able to kind of link somewhat of a cause effect to when you were going through a major bout of depression? Like prior to that, would you have said like, maybe it was just general pressure of being at Northwestern and like
that was the first time where I felt like.
But you've dealt with pressure in
yeah,
LT.
I've always
in your basketball career. That was the first time you were able to put
I dealt with stuff before that was pressure. I always felt like I did pretty good with pressure. Like
pressure is a privilege.
Yeah. That was the first time where I was
Jim,
like,
if we may. Right? Like as I hear of your story in it, I think pressure can be overwhelming too, right? And you probably didn't have the mental safeguards you wish you did.
Right.
I mean, I'm glad you didn't. I enjoy our relationship as a result. Right?
Yeah.
So, but like I think your approach at Northwestern, if you're doing the replay button, you're probably taking different mental health guards and approaches.
Right. Like, well, one, if I was like I had no idea.
I'm going down the road again.
Yeah.
I need to fix something.
Yeah, like I had no idea. And like what was good is I talked to on the pod, you might listen to this one. He's East Coast. He went to the East Coast, so maybe you'll listen to it. My buddy, I guess now my buddy, but he was my former player, Ryan Davis, who played at Vermont. He's the best player I ever coached. was phenomenal, 2-time player of the year there, went to the NCAA tournament twice. And he said one of the reasons why he chose to go to Vermont was that they had a mental health person on staff. So he knew, like, and he was able to, connect with them, like, where there wasn't that. And there still isn't that at a lot of different schools. It's gotten a lot better. Like, I know Northwestern has a whole psychology department for their athletic program. That just wasn't there at the time. I think if I even had, like, an inkling, I think things could have been different, but I had no background.
I think it's funny hearing you talk about it.
Yeah.
And just acknowledging for everybody, right? Like I know my triggers. I know when they're coming.
Yeah.
And I can acknowledge the periods when they came. Like I know graduating college, any change for me is really tough.
Yeah.
Right. And I know there's likely a depression episode. Every time I've had a child, I've made a major life shift and all this. I haven't gone through depressions because I've done the guarding. Right. But like hearing your story, Jim, I'm pushing you on this, right? Like coaching to you was very important.
Yeah.
You cared a lot more than most, more than many, about the impact that you had on your players.
Yeah.
Winning, losing was important to you, but having a positive impact on the school and on the kids would put you to such a point where you tipped.
Well, I become even like about this. Like I'm obsessive. I'm my dad, same way, like one track mind. Like I get obsessive. Like it's what helped me become a good basketball player is like I practiced nonstop, like all the time. And it was like just obsessive. So yeah, like I think that probably would be overwhelming. Like when I was coaching, I would become very obsessive. And it wasn't just, like you said, about basketball. Like, when I was in the inner city, it was about all this, like, hey, let's get the grades where they need to be, all the behavior stuff. Let's get to this standard.
You had the extreme ownership of everything and a standard that you had to maintain. And if you slipped, knowing you, like if you didn't hit that standard, right, wrong, fake or real, it bothered you.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I think that probably, the stress of that definitely probably played a role in it for sure. And obviously that was one of the reasons why I kind of stepped away when I met Conant, is because like one, I just needed to make sure that I had everything in line. Like, I needed to make sure that like what I thought would be a permanent solution, like the different self-care. And that was the thing, like I couldn't, when I was coaching, I had such a one-track mind. Like I couldn't exercise. Like I would just be, I couldn't get sun.
Day.
Yeah, I couldn't get sun. I couldn't do all those things. So, that definitely played a role for sure.
And then one thing we had, so I went through the process. I did go to the hospital once to get admitted.
Okay.
And
I didn't know this.
Yeah, and so I went and so I'm with my.
See, this is the Maley way. Share selfishly.
And I go to the psychiatrist, and I'll never forget. So it's snowing out, and I'm driving, and all I can think about is just plowing into a tree and ending it. And the lady's like, "You should go to the hospital." I'm like, "It's snowing out, and you want me in my mental state to drive myself to the hospital?"
Yeah.
Like, you're just trying to get rid of the one patient. And so, and you go through, and they talk about hope. Do you have hope? That was the whole process for me. And I'm like, I think, you know what I mean? They're like, go home. I'm like, all right, now I'm going to drive again. It's great, right? For you, as you go through that experience, and you talked about personal touch and wanted community, I don't want to go too deep on it, but like, were people able to come in? Like, how did that
Where? In the hospital?
Yeah.
What do you mean people able to,
like
visit?
Did Katie come in? Yeah.
No. And you weren't even allowed to have a phone. It was during COVID. So like at one point I had to stay in the room until they got my COVID test back just by myself.
No way.
So I'm there in the room, and I think there were like books there were books to read and things like that. But then you would have to go to these meetings in the hospital, and they were good because, as I say when I speak, one of the things that they talked about in the meeting was, the link between dehydration and depression. I was like, oh my God, like I never drink water.
Yeah.
And so like that little tidbit, I think helped me like a lot.
Right.
And I don't know if I can put like a number on it, like what % that made a big factor in my life. But I do think, that little thing, the self-care that I learned in there has been really successful. But yeah, people weren't allowed to come. You had to call up on like an office phone if like you were going to make a call. So like I would call. Yeah, it was a tough experience, but like I went into it thinking, you guys might not even know this, but like, you ever seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Okay, so like that's what I was envisioning. I was envisioning like I was the tall Native American gentleman who they threw the ball up to and scored. Like that's who I thought I was going to be there, and it ended up being almost humbling in a way because there were a lot of people in there who were very successful people, very successful.
Right.
And they're in there. And again, it's at Hinsdale Hospital. So like the Gerards of the world are there.
Yeah.
And, like there's some very successful people who are struggling with similar stuff that I am. So it was kind of like humbling in a way. Our kids are home. Hey, hold on a second, guys. See, this is the life that we live as a father. We're in a deep moment, and we got kids coming down. But what was I saying?
Well, you got to be flexible. I'm sure you had some points that we didn't hit on yet, but everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, and that's the parenting way.
Yes. Yeah. Well, here, last kind of thing that I want to talk about. Well, do you want me to go more into that, or are you good there?
No, I just think it's interesting, like even as we talk and hearing how you've grown through this.
Yeah.
Acknowledging your growth through it is really cool.
No, Appreciation Society.
Appreciation Society. I just want to go one way, and your openness is something that I would never have envisioned. From my buddy Jim,
Yes.
Right?
But don't you think I would have been a better, like when you were going through cancer, like now I think I would be pretty
That's
good
where
with
I'm
it.
going. Like it's funny, and I try to communicate this in a very poorly way the other day, but in life, and I think your bullet 17 on your agenda here is to get to fatherhood and life and all that.
We don't have to get to fatherhood.
No,
we can
but
skip
all this
fatherhood.
stuff, like we
Gerard
talk
wants to
about-
skip fatherhood. He wants to go upstairs.
If we don't do zip lines, our friendship's over. So I mean, it's all it is.
Oh yes, okay.
But we talked about where you grow. Obviously, you're growing, but you grow through adversities and experiences, and you are sharing very humbly your mental health experiences and how you've grown and acknowledging all these things. I think it's really cool. I think as you reflect on things, you can see how you've made these changes, and you would show more grace or more gratitude or whatever, reach out to people when they're going through these circumstances. You're not going to know that when you're a 27-year-old and you're living in a bubble and trying to win the state championship in Illinois, as I'm watching, the Shield on a couch, or you're having intrusive thoughts like, I want to leave them alone, let them deal with it. I don't want to mess it up, or like, whatever. So, it's another thing for grace. Like I can always remember my close friend, Andy, whose mother died I was very close with her, and she died when I was 20 or 21. And she went through cancer. I never reached out.
Yeah.
And it's one of those regrets, right, from life. And now I look at it, I'm like, I would have been there the next day. I would have just showed up, right?
Yeah.
Like, just show up, just do it. But you don't know that.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't know that. So, but anyways, I think it's really cool. And your growth is really cool. I wanted to lay on the mutual appreciation.
Yeah,
so you can make fun of me.
you see how you get to this. You see how it happens.
Well,
You're
it was
understanding.
Agenda item 16.5. I put it in there.
I just wanted to do one more thing. We don't have to get too deep into it. I was going to get a little more deep into the raising kids, but I guess I just want to get into the mental health aspect in terms of, raising kids. Like this type of stuff was never talked about when we were growing up. Just wasn't, and that's nothing against our parents at all. That's how it was. Like, you didn't mention this. Like, how do you think you guys will approach any sort of, because in all likelihood, a couple of our kids probably will deal with something like this. Like, how will you approach it, do you think, now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we're the best generation to be equipped with it. What we've as a society done in terms of, talking about mental health and most of it, most of that is good. But feel and experience what we've experienced. If we have a situation where one of our kids is reluctant to go to school or anything like that, we know to a degree exactly how they feel. Pretty much, and we know that avoidance is typically not a good thing. In a lot of those circumstances, you kind of need to do it, as difficult as it may be. So I feel like we've been prepared to deal with it in a way, and you've have a lot of experience on dealing with like what not to say.
Yeah.
And I should watch that. I should listen to that podcast because sometimes
just listen to one.
Yeah, just listen to
10
one.
minutes.
Yeah,
10 minutes.
I can meet things pretty aggressively at times when
You've gotten better though.
I have gotten better.
A lot better.
I have gotten better. But so just arming yourself with those resources that we still do to this day by talking to people like this and learning each other's stories, I think it's going to equip us to be the best possible parents when we see any one of our kids maybe starting to go down maybe an anxious or depressed state as they get older. Because it's not happening to our 3-year-olds right now. They're just happy and that's great to see too. That as parents and as people who had mental health struggles, it's great to have children, which is also difficult because you might worry extra about them and things. But it's great to see them truly be kids and they don't think about it. If they were anxious or depressed maybe for a little bit, like it breaks and then they kind of stay kids.
Yeah,
and it's good to see that child of mind because we need that.
Yeah, and I think one thing, 107, how many show references can I make that you don't know about?
I hope these are all
No, I'm just making numbers up. But you've talked about something that I don't think probably would have happened in my life growing up, and probably not for you, is your son got sick and then he had a mental health battle as a result.
Yeah.
And my son
Gerard might not know about that.
Correct. I don't think you're right.
Okay.
And so my oldest son now, is it just a way to get out of class every time, like every 8-year-old's doing? Hey, I got to go to the counselor again. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
But he in his mind had to go see a therapist, and so we coordinated a way that he could do online therapy and just get his feelings out, and it was awesome because we could listen to it. We're there. She legitimately kicked his ass.
Yeah.
And said, like, stop being a wimp.
Yeah.
Which was kind of funny. Like, oh, man, I'm a softie on this kid. I've got to kick his ass, right? But it's good to have that outside. I don't see my mom and dad being open to that experience. Like,
Yeah.
hey, Matt, why don't you go to therapy right now? Like, it
just wasn't a thing. Yeah.
It wasn't. And so I think acknowledging that. But it is, I would like to hit on, like, it's a fear. Like,
for sure.
I know the kid's going to go through the mental challenges. Like, I can see the change I've acknowledged is a big issue. Like, life and change orientation for my kids is like our first week of summer every year is like, oh my God, please get me through this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he struggles with it so much. Right. And I can only imagine when we go from elementary school to middle school, how that's going to be in like the first week of school. I don't want to go and all that. And so I don't know. There is like, we're growing through experience. We're going through shared, but I will say one thing that I know you appreciate, we appreciate is we do have the luxury of the vacation club.
Yeah, that's what
and the friendship of it. I don't want to steal your thunder as you're wrapping it up. Sorry. But like it is beyond fun to see the different approaches to parenting that we have. Jerry's approach where he's forceful, but no, I'm not saying that. Like he is so structured and proactive in his child care. Yeah. Jim, you may not be there, right? Your approach is more laissez-faire. Yeah. Which I probably fall in. My wife's, more there. So it's funny seeing the mixes and what works in the childhood's approaches to it. So, but yeah, it's something I'm afraid of. Like I'm always interested hiring you because you're so ingrained in it now. Yeah. And being a teacher, seeing kids.
Yeah, you see kids all the time, and like I'll see my kids in them. You know what I mean? Like, and I'll be like, oh God, I hope this isn't happening to Meg or this isn't happening to Andy. So you see that all the time.
But your conversations on structure and discipline and helping kids through discipline. Yeah. And how that's helpful, and then how you do that. Like we joke, you're laissez-faire, but you're somewhat strict and disciplined in your approach to your kids.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think I'm really big, and I'm like, this is like a relentlessness to it. Like even with my classes, like I have rule, and like I do not budge. Like
Right.
I just don't.
Right.
If I say I'm gonna do something, it's like if the other day we were at our I was telling Gerard this, we were at our neighbors, and like I told Andy and Patty they were jumping on the couch, and I was like, hey, if you do it again, we're leaving.
Right.
And I didn't want to leave, like it was a fun time. But they did it again, and I was like, well, we're leaving, and they were crying hysterically, trying to negotiate with me, and I'm just like, no. I need them to see no matter what. When I say it, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I do think that there is an element to kids need those like structures. And it's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to, even as a teacher, to like, it's much easier to be like the kid that, or the teacher that everyone loves. It's much easier to do that.
Right.
But like, that's not good for them in the long run, I don't think. So, yeah, I definitely do that. And I know Gerard, he wants to go to the high ropes course, so we'll wrap it up.
Zip line.
Zip line. But I just want to thank Katie, my wife. She has a what? Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna shout out to Rosie too, because all of our wives, as we've been through our episodes, have all been extremely supportive of us. You know, and I mean, like,
In
you know,
sickness and in health. That
in
was an
sickness and health.
episode.
Yes, that is true, and yeah, that was one.
Yeah.
But no, so shout out to Rosie.
Well, shout out. You peer pressure me into. I already acknowledged her. Yeah. No, thank you to Ashley. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, no, and I think with Katie, like, I kind of make fun of her because she is social butterfly. She has like 17 different clubs that she's a part of. And she came up with this idea, I think, to kind of throw me a bone, to be like, all right, well, you need to do something with your buddies. And I think we all kind of were like, yeah, let's do that. But I really didn't think it was going to happen. Like, I don't know if you guys are the same way. Like, I thought maybe we'd do it for like a couple years, but it's been kind of awesome, like being able to do this. One, to just see you guys, and then see like all of our kids growing up. It's just been good. So I want to thank her for that. I also want to do a final tribute to our buddy Mikey Dyer. You know, I wear this, and I know he would love this. So I made, you guys were mad at me because I made my own wristband a couple of years ago. Right when he got
for one.
Made
I think it's the same price if you buy one and if you buy 200 of those things. I think it's the same price.
So anyways, I was playing basketball at school, and I went up for a shot, and a kid snapped it, and it snapped in half. So then I had to wear, now I have the one his brother made. And Mikey would be laughing in heaven knowing that I had to wear this, because it actually is like a Notre Dame reference, which Mikey loved Notre Dame. And if anybody knows me knows that I despise Notre Dame. It's just something that I grew up with. And it says, "Onward to victory in loving memory of Michael Dyer." And I wear it every single day, and I look at it on one side I have a wristband for my mother, another side for Mikey, and you know, I'm always thinking about him, and I think about his wife a lot. And I'm glad that she kind of gave me the green light to talk about him, because I do think he was a instrumental part of our lives, obviously. So final message. We graduated from Holy Cross nearly 20 years ago. Gerard stole my thunder on this, but the Jesuit motto of men and women for others is something that I do always think about. And I thought about it when I was teaching and coaching. I think we've all thought about it with how we've handled things as professional, with our own family, and things that we do outside of our professional environment. But I do think today, you guys might not know this, but today I think is one of those times where, you know, we all kind of have lived that motto out. And I know Foley was critical once of my sharing selfishly. And I get what he was saying. He was trying to say, well, not everyone can do that. And I understand that. Not everyone has the capability of like sharing their different struggles. But you did it today. And I do think that kind of is embodying, and I wish Holy Cross should get on board with this, with this whole thing, because I think what we're doing and what I'm doing is falling in line with that motto that we learned 20 years ago. Because, as I always say, sharing your story, we do it to help others, but we also do it to help ourselves, because that's the Maley way.
Great podcast.
For Jerry, do you do that every time?
That was very
do you do that every time, or he's never heard that before?
He's never heard that.
Heard that before.
He's never heard my sign off.
Yeah, no, that was very good.
That's great.
All right.
Jim.
Nice.
Jim's really good.
That was great.